It's great to be here, and thank you, Thekla, and your principal. That was a very lovely message of hope for this group, that you'll never have to be anywhere near what was going on during the Pacific War. The perpetrators of those crimes were people of my ancestry. And when you look at those pictures and hear about those stories, some of you won't be able to help feeling hatred. What happened to Japanese Canadians was that we were hated. We were hated for our connection to those atrocities. And there was a sentiment at the time, 1% I hear, of North Americans thought that people of the Japanese race were inherently, biologically different. They were cruel. This was a belief. And so there was some sense that we should be extinguished or that we should not exist in Canada. And there was a move to remove us from this country, which was debated in Parliament, and the effort was underway. But there was a rising up of the people, ordinary people, who didn't believe that, and who believed that we were Canadians, which we were. And in fact, that for human beings there is no difference at base, at heart. There are certainly all kinds of differences, many, many differences among us all, even within our own families, even within the whole world. Differences of culture, differences of values, all kinds of differences. But we all have hearts, we all feel. There's a little story in my present work, which may or may not make it, but the story is told by a cherry tree. And the cherry tree is there and dying in the backyard of my childhood home. But the cherry tree says, in the beginning, the Maker made the world for friendship. That's what we're here for. That's the purpose of our existence. That's the meaning of our life, that we can be friends with one another. And the food of friendship is the light. And the light is made of love and truth. The love has to be stronger than truth for friendship to survive. The love has to be twice as strong as truth, but it has to have truth. You can't deny truth, or friendship won't survive either. If you separate love and truth, you have truth by itself, parading its facts. And without love, the truth by itself can kill. So when you look at these pictures and hear these stories today, you will be hearing about truth. And you'll be thinking, that's not me at all, those devils, those demons, those unspeakable perpetrators of these unspeakable crimes. You'll say, that's not me. But the truth is, that's exactly within the human condition, and it's within us all. It's there. For me, it's in the core of my being. I cannot separate myself from any of this. And in fact, I can't move on from any of this, and that's why I'm here, because it's my story too. And because it is for love of Japan that I am seeking the tears of Japan for the victims of Japan. And I think for most Japanese people in Japan and in Canada, there is fear about that story, a wish to make it smaller, less horrible than it is, a desire for it not to be true. But I don't think we can run away from what is true. We have to go into it, into the forest fire, into the terror, into the flames, in our own lives, in our own families, in our own stories. We have to go where the terror is in order to become free. If I were to pull out of this story, if I were to deny it, I would be pulling out the essence of who I am. And so I hold it. I hold the horror in one hand that I cannot open my eyes really and look at. I can only glance at from time to time. It can't stay in my head all the time, or I'd be just a complete mental wreck. But I have to hold it. In the other hand, I have to hold the victims, and that is the moral imperative, to stand with the vulnerable, to stand with the weak, whoever they are, and that includes the perpetrators, and that includes the Japanese. Because the people who did these things were also victims. If you were forced to take a bayonet and kill somebody, or else you would be killed, and you did that, you would be a victim of yourself and of whoever made you to do that. And so would the person who made you do that be a victim. So in the end, we are all victims, and we are all deserving of compassion and understanding, and we cannot ever let compassion go. We hold them both, and we are stretched to the limit and beyond the limit, and we are rended. And we jump over the abyss with all of this in our hands. And what I have discovered when I jump into the abyss, which I do, is that there are nets. There is love. There is love between Thekla and me across the chasm of our histories. And that is so precious to me. And when you discover that your enemy is your best friend, when you discover that, in that reconciliatory moment, you will have entered heaven, because that's the best thing there is in the whole world, that moment of reconciliation. So I hope you hold that, hold these things.